Nice to see you all, and it's so nice to come together to share some Dhamma tonight. My name is Viveka. Ajahn Brahm gave me this name, which I really love, and I've been a full-time practitioner. Even though I'm not ordained, I've been a full-time practitioner for, well, close to 20 years. That's near enough. And I'm looking forward to sharing some Dhamma tonight. I hope it's all right with you all that I'm actually going to do some sutta extracts. And I thought a good topic might be one that a few people have reached out to me about in the last few weeks, and that's about what constitutes good practice or right practice. And so we'll do that, and we'll start with the meditation quite quickly, and then we'll move on to the topic, if that's all right. That's a perfect intro for the Metta Sutta. So chant along if you'd like to. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, not busy with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great and the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be happy. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu. May all beings be free from suffering, and that includes all of us. I know that many of you are very long-time practitioners and meditators, And when I look at the Armadale Group blurb, it says especially for beginners. And so that always puts me in a bit of a quandary, about how to actually introduce it. So just in case there are any beginners here, I thought I'd just talk about the aim and the purpose of meditation before we start our meditation. And really, meditation is about calming the body and generating a positive mind state. It's the ability to minimize the agitation and running around that we have where our attention is all over the place. And it's a way to give space and calm to our mind. And that's really the bottom line. It's a little space for peace and tranquility and relaxing. So that's the aim. I think that have no other expectations. This is your little space, your little refuge of quiet inside, away from all the busyness everywhere else. And however far it goes or whatever it does, it's all good enough. So I think, if you just keep that attitude, that helps. So there's not an attitude of expectations or attainments or anything like that. So I'll just set my timer. So I'll do a little bit of a guide to introduce us. I'm just going to a very general meditation with the aim of first tranquilizing the body and then tranquilizing the mind a little bit and abiding in a happy space for a while, a nice little bubble and cocoon of happy space for some 25 minutes or so. So follow along. If you've got your own type of meditation you'd like to do, please feel free and just do that. And otherwise, just sit back, get comfortable, close your eyes, and enjoy the ride. Okay? So we'll get a comfortable posture, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths. So the aim is to still the body and to still the mind. So to start with, I'm going to work a little body scan just so that we go through and let all of the bits of our body become grounded and still and calm and peaceful. That's the groundwork before we can move on to the mind. First, we still the body. So sometimes I like to give myself a good shake before we start. And an image that I like is like a dog shakes water out of its fur. I shake off all of the stuff, all of the baggage, all of the yucky stuff. There it goes. Shh. Now, just close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. And starting with the feet, just bring your attention to your feet. Hello, feet. Thank you, feet. I like to have an attitude of gratitude when I'm doing the body scan. The body works so hard, and I really don't think about it enough or care about it enough. So thank you, feet. Thank you, feet. Relax any tension. Feel the skin on the toes. Make sure they're comfortable. And it's your time to relax now, feet. Nothing more to do. And up to the ankles. Thank you, ankle. And up the calves. You can pause at any spots that are sore or tense and send some metta. And up to the knees. Thank you, knees. You work so hard. Rest now. Time to rest. And up to the thighs, the great big thigh muscles. You work so hard. Just relax now. Just relax now. And to the hips and the lower back. Feel your way in there. Give it some loving attention. And going up the lower back to the spine. Every vertebra all the way up. Thank you, spine. Thank you so much. You're a bit worn out and wonky now. You do such a good job anyway. Coming around to the front of the body, the abdomen, and to all the organs, the intestines, the liver, the kidneys, just working away, doing their thing, keeping me alive. Thank you. Thank you. And up to the diaphragm. And the lungs. Thank you, lungs. Tirelessly working. And the heart. And the chest muscles. And moving up to the shoulders, the collarbone and the shoulders. You work so hard. Rest now. Relax. Relax and rest. Nothing to do now. And down the arms, the biceps to the elbows. And the forearms. And the wrists and the hands. Oh, thank you. all of the finger joints. How many years you've worked. Thank you. And back up the arms, back to the shoulders. Feel free to move or adjust your posture if you want to be kind to your body. And to the neck. Thank you, neck. And to the base of the skull. And up and over the scalp. Down to the forehead. Relax. Around the eyes, all those eye muscles. Relax now. Nothing to see. And the nose. Nothing more you need to smell. Just relax. Calm the senses down. No need to take in anything from outside anymore. Just relax. How delightful it feels to be able to be still, not to have to do anything. Hello, mind. You too can be still now. It's your time for peace, tranquility, and stillness. You've been working so hard. Brain, you've been working so hard, always thinking. Relax now. Nothing more to do. Just relax. It's so quiet. Maybe you can just notice the breath. Just in the background. Flowing in and flowing out like the waves on the shore. Nothing to do. If your body wants to disappear, just let it float away. Let it fade away. Even the breathing becomes so light. So light. It does it by itself. The air that floats past your nose or your mouth, or just the pores of your skin, it comes in by itself. You don't have to do anything. Just let it flow and feel the lightness. Feels so delightful. Peace, calm, lightness. The air is so fine. It's like its lightness itself, radiant and light and peaceful and calm, uplifting and joyful. Let the light penetrate every cell in your body. You can let it lift you out of your body if you like. Peaceful, calm, lightness. Going to be quiet now. Coming close to the end of the meditation. Enjoy these last moments, peace, delight, lightness. Slowly taking your time, start to come back. You may wish to reflect just how delightful the stillness can be. Even if you only had a moment, it's a gift to yourself. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes. If you don't want to open your eyes, nice to reflect how pleasant it is without the senses. Just to be inside and quiet and still. Time to come back now. You wish to keep meditating. Let's turn off the sound and meditate. Okay. Sorry to disturb some of you. It's not fair sometimes when it's going so nicely. Okay. Just before we get started, I wanted to mention to Bridget, I'm so sorry I got you and Helen mixed up. I listened to both of your talks and they were both really good, but I just mixed up who did which talk. So pardon me for that. Okay. So I thought today, I've been inspired for today's talk. A couple of people have reached out to me about being confused about what's right practice, and these are people who've been practicing for quite a long time, but sometimes we can get overwhelmed with so much information about what is right practice. And information comes at us from all kinds of directions, and it's very easy to get confused and not to know which thing to do. And you can feel like, you're being pummeled from all directions. And so I thought I'd go back to the basics, the real basics. And I thought I'd go back to the source of all of this, the Buddha. So I have a few short, beautiful excerpts from the suttas. And I hope that's all right with everyone. But the Buddha's voice is so clear on this that I think we can't get any better advice. And that's where I go to for my advice. So I'll just share what I use as my rules of thumb that have helped me whenever I've had doubts or been overwhelmed by how I should be practicing. So one of the things, a blessing and also a curse, is that we live in an age where the Dhamma is very available. I had a look on Amazon for how many books on Buddhism there were, and it went up to 50,000 plus. And that's because Amazon just gives you 50,000 results. you know, and 50,000, oh my goodness. So, where do you start? What do you do? And if you're looking at Dharma talks and things like that, there are hundreds of thousands. So how do you differentiate and how do you know who's telling you what right practice is and what you should be doing? Because the issue is that some of the people, the authors and the speakers, they might have total right view, some might have partial right view, some might have wrong view, some might have good advice for little pockets here and little pockets there. But what we need is an easy, streamlined rule of thumb that we can use as our compass point to drive practice overall, something easy to remember. And unsurprisingly, this issue was around in the Buddha's day. And there's a very famous sutta called the Kalama Sutta, which is exactly about this problem. The Buddha was visiting a town, and the Kalamas from that town came and said, all of these ascetics and Brahmins, they all come and they tell us to do this and this doctrine. And, they say, my doctrine is the right doctrine and that person's doctrine is the wrong doctrine. And Buddha, please tell us, how do we know which one we should follow and what we should do? I'm just watching my clock here. Sorry, I'm watching everything. And actually, when I went and I looked for the Kalama Sutta, which is, it's actually formally called the Kesaputtiya Sutta, and it's in the Anguttara Nikaya 3.65, if anyone wants to go and look this up. But then I found in my notes this page, which was sent to me by the BSWA when I first went for the Triple Gem and took the precepts with Ajahn Brahm at Vesak many years ago. And this came in the welcome pack. And I thought, well, it just helped reinforce my faith and confidence in Ajahn Brahm that he would choose the Kalama Sutta to incorporate into your welcome pack. And I'll read his particular version of it rather than the formal version. This is a more informal, free translation that gets to the meaning of it. And it's only a little excerpt. Okay. So this is what it says. Do not simply believe what you hear just because you have heard it for a long time. So often we just tend to believe things that have been repeated and repeated, and you think that's the way that it's supposed to be because it's always been that way, and so you just take it on board and you don't question it. He says, do not follow tradition blindly merely because it has been practiced in that way for many generations. Do not be quick to listen to rumors. Do not confirm anything just because it agrees with your scriptures and ideas. Do not foolishly make assumptions. Do not abruptly draw conclusions by what you see and hear. Do not be fooled by outward appearances. Do not hold on tightly to any view or idea just because you're comfortable with it. Do not accept as fact anything that you yourself find to be logical. Sounds very counterintuitive, doesn't it? Do not be convinced of anything out of respect or deference to your spiritual teachers. And this is quite a free translation, but it goes on. He has a little paragraph underneath. And he says, you should go beyond opinion and belief. You can rightly reject anything which, when accepted, practiced, and perfected, leads to more aversion, more craving, and more delusion. These things are not beneficial and they're to be avoided. Conversely, you can rightly accept anything which, when accepted and practiced, leads to unconditional love, contentment, and wisdom. Okay, so these are the criteria upon which you should make choices about things. So if you follow that particular advice, if it leads to peace, contentment, good teaching, and if it doesn't lead to those things, then you shouldn't adopt it. And I'll just read an excerpt from further in that sutta, but this is now going to the actual translation. Oops, pardon me. Yes, here we go. I'll just repeat this, which will make it clearer. Okay, so the Buddha says, come, Kalamas, do not go by oral tradition, by lineage of teaching, by hearsay, by a collection of scriptures, by logical reasoning, by inferential reasoning, by reasoned cogitation, by the acceptance of a view after pondering it, by the seeming competence of a speaker, or because you think the aesthetic is our guru. But when you know for yourselves these things are wholesome, these things are blameless, these things are praised by the wise, and these things, if accepted and undertaken, lead to welfare and happiness, then you should live in accordance with them. And the Buddha goes on to say that you should do this. Oh, it doesn't matter. I won't do that little bit. I'll go on a little bit further. Okay. I'm just going to read you another sutta excerpt, and then I'm going to tie them all together. So this is like a real go-to sutta. It's very short, right? It's very short, and I really like it. It's called To Go To Me, or the Sankita Sutta. It's Anguttara Nikaya 8.53. And I would actually recommend to you that this is something that you can actually make a copy of or write out and carry around with you if you want to. If ever you're assailed by doubt or confusion or anything else, this is something that you can pull out like a little thumbnail, and it's the go-to sutta that clearly outlines the right direction of practice. I also thought this sutta was really a good one to choose amongst all of them, because the Buddha, this is the Buddha's advice to Mahapajapati Gautami, who's the first nun. And because the Rains is, you've got all female speakers, I thought it would be really nice to actually use the Buddha's advice to the first nun. So here we go. I have heard that at one time the Blessed One was staying at Vesali in the peaked roof hall of the great forest. Then Mahapajapati Gautami went to the Blessed One and, on arrival, having bowed down to him, stood to one side. As she was standing there, she said to him, "It would be good, Lord, if the Blessed One would teach me the Dhamma in brief, such that, having heard the Dhamma from the Blessed One, I might dwell alone, secluded, heedful, ardent, and resolute." So she's asking him for a quick, brief little teaching that she can take away and use as her guide. And this is what the Buddha says. He says, "Go to me. The qualities of which you may know, these qualities lead to passion, not dispassion, to being fettered, not to being unfettered, to accumulating, not to shedding, to self-aggrandizement, not to modesty, to discontent, not to contentment, to entanglement, not to seclusion, to laziness, not to aroused persistence, to being burdensome, not to being unburdensome, you may categorically hold this is not the Dhamma, this is not the Vinaya, this is not the teacher's instruction." So anything that leads to greed, hatred, delusion, to building up your ego, to accumulating stuff, to not being content, to being hard to satisfy, all those things that we chanted in the Metta Sutta, all of those things, whatever there is that you do which leads in that direction, that's not the Dhamma. No matter who tells you to do it. Doesn't matter if it's your revered guru, if he tells you to do something that leads in that direction, as we heard in the Palama Sutta, you can rightfully reject it. This is your rule of thumb. He continues, he now talks about it from the other side. He said, "As for the qualities of which you may know, these qualities lead to dispassion, not to passion. They lead to being unfettered, not to being fettered, to shedding, not to accumulating, to modesty, not to self-aggrandizement, to contentment, not to discontent, to seclusion, not to entanglement, to aroused persistence, not to laziness, and to being unburdensome, not to being burdensome. Here you may categorically hold this is the Dhamma, this is the Vinaya, this is the teacher's instruction." This is what the Blessed One said, and gratified Mahapajapati Gautami, delighted at his words. So it's very short, but it covers the entirety of the path if you remember what the goals are. So all of our actions are to lead to these particular goals, to renunciation rather than accumulation, to contentment rather than discontent, to peace and calm rather than agitation and ill will. And you might see how this leads right into the four right efforts, which is the sixth factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right. Is that making sense to people? Yeah, good, thank you. Let me just see the order of things that I wanted to do here. Okay, so the right effort is there's another short little excerpt, and this is from the Samyutta Nikaya, 45.8, called Analysis. So this is quite a famous sutta, and I'm just going to take out, this talks about the Eightfold Path, but this section I'm going to read to you is just the little section on right effort. And that is, and what is right effort? It's when a mendicant or any practitioner generates enthusiasm, tries, makes an effort, exerts the mind, and strives so that bad, unskillful qualities don't arise. Okay, so these are all the things that the Buddha was talking about before, the negative qualities that are going in the wrong direction. You make an effort so that those things don't arise. That's the first of the right efforts. And then the second one is they generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive so that bad, unskillful qualities that have arisen are given up. So the first one is that you do whatever is required so that the bad, negative states don't arise. And if they've arisen, you do whatever is required to make them cease. You know, it's really quite simple. But we get so overwhelmed by so many different practices and everything else. But this is really opening it up for you to be as creative as you like and to do whatever it takes to increase the positive and decrease the negative states. That leads me to the third one. They generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive so that skillful qualities that have not yet arisen do arise. And they generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive so that skillful qualities that have arisen remain, are not lost, but increase, mature, and are fulfilled by development. This is called right effort. So you do what's required to make the good states arise and be maintained, and you do what's required to make the unbeneficial, unskillful cease or not arise. So, for example, meditation that we were doing, the purpose of that is for good states to arise. Right? So the type of meditation you do, it's what works for you that makes good states arise. So if you're using a technique that is giving rise to ill will or to sleepiness or to other things, you know that's not the right way. You have to do whatever it takes for the good and skillful qualities to arise and be maintained. Makes sense? Yep. Great. What's the time? Good. And so the last little bit of a sutta that I thought I'd read that goes along this theme is from the Majjhima Nikaya, number 19, Two Kinds of Thought, yet another very famous sutta. And this little excerpt I'm going to read you is how the Buddha practiced before he was enlightened. So he had to deal with these things as well. And how did he do it? He says, Bhikkhus, before my enlightenment, while I was still only an unenlightened bodhisattva, it occurred to me, suppose that I divide my thoughts into two classes. Then I set on one side thoughts of sensual desire, thoughts of ill will, and thoughts of cruelty, and I set on the other side thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of non-ill will, and thoughts of non-cruelty. Right. And then he talks about if the negative, unskillful thoughts arose, he would do whatever he had to do in order to make them subside. And when the positive thoughts arose, or he wanted them to arise, he would do anything that was required to make the positive and skillful states arise. And there's a very important reason for this. And this is what the Buddha says. The Buddha says, bhikkhus, whatever a practitioner, bhikkhu, mendicant, any practitioner, whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. If they frequently think and ponder upon thoughts of sensual desire, they have abandoned the thought of renunciation. Pardon me, I'll read that again. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of sensual desire, he has abandoned the thought of renunciation to cultivate the thought of sensual desire, and then his mind inclines to thoughts of sensual desire. Actually, I'm reading the wrong excerpt. I do apologize. I wanted to read. Oh, no. Pardon me. Okay, so this is the rationale why you want to cultivate the skillful thoughts, why that is the Dhamma. Because the things that lead to positive mind states, your mind inclines towards the things that occupy your mind and you frequently think about. Therefore, you want to make sure that you're doing the things and giving rise to the positive states and minimizing and abandoning the negative states. So with that example of the renunciation, what I read was that if the things that you're doing lead to an increase of sensual desire, right, but then that leads to an increase of the unskillful, and that leads to an inclination. It becomes a habit. Your mind goes there. It becomes a habit pattern. And here the Buddha says, whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. If they frequently think and ponder upon thoughts of renunciation, they have abandoned the thought of sensual desire to cultivate the thought of renunciation, and then their mind inclines to the thoughts of renunciation. If they frequently think and ponder upon thoughts of non-ill will or upon thoughts of non-cruelty, they have abandoned the thought of ill will and abandoned the thought of cruelty to cultivate the thought of non-cruelty. And then their mind inclines to thoughts of non-cruelty. So it's a dichotomy, right? It's the two types of thoughts. And your right effort is the same. It's about the two things. It's going in the direction of peace and calm. It's going in the direction of less craving, less agitation, and more contentment and more peace, less anger and more metta. So if we apply this to a real world example, for example, is if you're watching something on TV and you notice that this is giving rise to agitation, ill will, or greed, desire, strong desire, then you know that that input is leading to an increase of bad states in you. So what do you have to do? You have to do whatever is required to minimize those, to abandon those, and you have to do the things that lead to an increase of happiness, peace, non-cruelty, non-desire. So you pick the movie, right? If it's a movie, you pick the movie that leads in the skillful and beneficial direction. And you don't watch the movie that goes in there. You don't watch the horror. You don't watch the things that agitate you. And in this way, it becomes quite a simple practice that's integrated into everything we do. And that's why I love that sutta where the Buddha talks about how he practiced when he was not yet enlightened. It was just by going through and seeing what things lead to positive states and what things lead to negative states. And yes, okay. So this is also yoniso manasikara. This is right attention. So you're looking at these things, okay? You're evaluating your mind state as you go, and you say, is this going in the direction of the good Dhamma? And if it is, you keep doing it. And if it's going in the wrong direction, then you stop doing it and do something else. So it's a very easy rule of thumb. It sounds super easy, but boy, is it effective. You know, things don't always have to be complicated. And I don't know about you, but way back when I was in the workforce, there was a sort of an acronym called KISS, which was Keep It Simple, Stupid, right? I sort of modify it. I like to call it Keep It Simple, Sweetheart, right? And we need simple little things to guide our practice, you know, and because the Noble Eightfold Path is a conditioned path, this is how we condition ourselves. We're reconditioning everything in this way. So, so I might just stop there, keeping it simple, sweethearts, and open it up to any comments or questions or anything that you like. Okay, so please feel free to write anything in the group chat. You can ask me anything. You can ask on this topic. You can ask anything you like on different topic, whatever, and I'll do my best. Oh, if you'd just like to make a contribution or a comment, we have many long-term, very experienced practitioners here, so please jump in and feel free. Uh-huh. Can I list the suttas? Yep. So the first sutta is the Kesaputiya Sutta or the Kalama Sutta, and that is Anguttara Nikaya 3.65. That's AN 3.65. The next sutta, oops, I have multiple versions of translations here. Here we go. Next sutta is also from the Anguttara Nikaya, AN 8.53, and it's called To Go To Me. The writing's too small. I can't read the Pali. So that was AN 8.53. Then the one about the right effort, that is from the Samyutta Nikaya, 45.8. That's SN 45.8, called Analysis. And the last one is Majjhima Nikaya number 19, Two Kinds of Thought, or the Dveda Vitakka Sutta. Majjhima Nikaya 19, Two Kinds of Thought. It's a nice little collection. And I really do like, what inspired this talk was a couple of practitioners who just found themselves too bombarded by information, and just having, you know, those two little paragraphs from that To Go To Me Sutta, that's enough, because it sparks off everything else. It's just like an aid to memory. And if you've just got it, you know, it's like a little touchstone. And I do things like that all the time when I'm practicing on a particular theme or want to pay attention to a particular thing. I'll have little notes around, or have a little note in my pocket, or something like that, that I can refer to. So please, if while you're thinking, I'll just have a look at my notes to see what else I thought I might talk about. So let's look.
Viveka, Gloria has got her electronic hand up to ask a question.
Oh, thank you. Hello, Gloria. Please unmute and ask away.
Yes, thank you for your talk. It's always nice to be reminded of the right things to do. My question is about meditation. Sometimes when I do meditation, I will saw like weird images. Usually it's involved like people being killed in weird shapes. And I just wonder, is my mind going to the like wrong directions or like the unwholesome state? Because I don't feel like it's about cruelty particularly, or I don't feel particularly it's about ill will. It's just like they just come up. I have asked Ajahn Brahm this question before, but it's online. And then he said that you can just do anything to your imagination, things like that, and you can make it funny or stuff like that. But I don't think I can do it because I've tried, but um I don't know why, but I can't really do it. And I just wonder if it is better to like stop your meditation when I saw those things, or I just like keep going or like switch attention to other thing.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. So when that comes up for you, how do you feel? Is it agitating? Is it neutral? Is it yucky?
I don't know. It's not really, it's not, it doesn't really have any kind of feeling. I will say definitely it's not like positive stuff. Like I can just say that it is like definitely not like you're very joyful to see those things or like you're happy, but I don't know how to categorize that feeling, or I don't know I can say that I feel anything about it, but yes, it's just
Okay. Well, I'm sort of one of the things I've always really loved about Ajahn Brahm and why I was so drawn to his method of meditation is that he talks about creativity, and I'm very much of that school as well. So you have to be creative and feel free to be creative. And look, you've got all of this sutta permission to be creative, to do whatever it takes to lead to positive states. So whether you can use your imagination and create different things, or you because it's such an individual thing, right? It's very difficult for anyone to get inside your head and to see what exactly will work for you. But you have permission to explore. You have permission to play with it. You have permission to manipulate it. Okay. You also have permission to go with it, right? Rather than to fight against it, right? Because sometimes when we want things to be otherwise, it gives this underlying base of aversion. And I'm not saying this is the right thing or the wrong thing, but just things that you can consider and trial. So you can just let it wash over you. You know, one of the things in meditation, and this isn't a thought of those mental images, but whether your thoughts are taking the form of images or whether it's like talking or anything else, one of the things that I think of is you know, just with thoughts, I imagine that I'm on the embankment, a grassy embankment of a great big freeway, right? And the cars are all going past, okay? And the attitude is that there's two ways that you can place your attention on those cars, on that traffic, okay? Now you're on the embankment looking at the distance and the cars going past. Now you can focus on the cars like the red car and who's in the red car and who's driving the red car, and you can focus in onto the red car, or else you can just go red car and blue car and truck and motorbike and just watch them pass. It's got nothing to do with you. It's just traffic. It's just traffic. Just let it do its thing, right? So you don't go into it. You sort of just look over it. That's just one creative method. And what I want to do is sort of to unlock and give you permission to find your creative solution for what will yield more positive states for you. How does that sound? Does that resonate at all?
Yes, I think you point out one really important things, because I think it sort of involves a kind of like helplessness in it. So I don't I don't think about using creative way, but yes, now you remind me. So thanks.
Yep. And the helplessness is like, you know, you don't have to pay attention and go into it, right? It's like you just say, this image, like red car, you don't have to interpret it and make a story about it and go into it and trying to figure out what its meaning is. The meaning is irrelevant, really. You can just let it go. It's like insignificant, right? And in the way that empowers you, because you're not then trapped by the image. You're just letting the image do its own thing.
Thank you.
Anyway, good luck. It's a journey. Excellent. Oh, hey, Sandra, thank you. That's nice. Sandra writes, I love the part of that sutta on two kinds of thought that goes, think the things you want to think, don't think the things you don't want to think. And Bob says the 5 hindrances, please. And do you want to elaborate what you mean?
The things that come up during meditation that detract from the meditation, that steer us in the wrong direction. Ajahn Brahm generally gives them names, and there are typically 5 of them. And I thought those among us that are just new to meditation might like to know them.
Okay. Okay. So you're talking about greed, hatred, greed, ill will, sloth and torpor, doubt, restlessness and remorse. Yep, so it's when your thoughts are going to any of those, which is, let me just, this is directly tied to the Gautami Sutta. It's directly linked to that. So it says, the qualities that lead to passion, not to dispassion. So this is to the craving and the greed. Okay, so the thoughts which have you craving and wanting and desiring, and you're just thinking about how you're going to get whichever thing. Okay, so that's that aspect of it. And then it says to being fettered, not to unfettered. Okay, to accumulating, not to shedding. These are, again, related to those sensual pleasures and the greed. Self-aggrandizement, not to modesty. So that's all the things that are about self-building, okay? That's not quite there. To discontent, not to contentment. Oh, well, okay, so then, okay, so the other hindrances, so the sloth and torpor, that's the things that lead to laziness, not to effort and persistence. So you can think of, and I think of it in terms of the conditions that lead to laziness. So there are some things that lead to laziness, and they can be things like, and sloth and torpor, that's like overeating, or that's not one of my big things. So I'm struggling to think of the conditions that lead to laziness. Probably not liking where you're at and not feeling that you've got any way to escape it. So you sleep, right? So a lot of people use sleep as a matter of avoidance and escape. So you had restlessness and remorse. So restlessness can come from the confusion, which is what inspired this talk. When you don't know what your right practice is and you're unclear, you're going this practice, this advice, that advice, and you're all over the place, restless. And the no remorse. Okay, so that's when you've actually done something that you feel not good about. And the best antidote to that is to just fix it. You know, you go and apologize, you say you're sorry, you make a resolution to behave better in the future, you forgive yourself, you forgive others, and that's the way you deal with the remorse. Doubt. So we go to the suttas like this one. We minimize doubt by actually understanding what is the right direction of practice, what is the true Dhamma. You also don't spend time proliferating about what ifs and going down all of the different rabbit holes. You know, that can be something that really affects you. Ill will. Well, you know when you've got ill will, and the antidote to that is metta. And if you have ill will to an individual, it can be, often it doesn't work to try and have metta towards that person. So what you do is you develop generalized metta. So the way that the Buddha teaches metta, and in the Metta Sutta that we chant as well, it's not personal, it's to all beings. Okay, and if it's not personal, you can distance yourself, and you can understand and have compassion for the human condition, and you can give metta, because, you know, we're all struggling and we're all suffering, and people do their best, even if they do stupid things. You know, they actually want to do the right thing, and you can have compassion and metta for people. So that's the type of antidote. So am I answering, Bob, what you were wanting to hear? Have I gone off on a tangent? Okay, thumbs up. Great. Thank you.
Hi, Viveka. Hi,
Hello,
Viveka.
John.
Hi. I've got a question that actually is from Ajahn Brahm's book, Mindfulness, Bliss and Beyond, and keeping things simple. The Eightfold Path is basically to try to lead you to Nibbana. Is that correct?
Say once more. The Eightfold Path is what?
Is to lead you to Nibbana, to enlightenment.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Just a quick question. I'll just read this. In the Mahavedala Sutta, Venerable Sariputta stated that there are two triggers for the arising of right view, which is another way of saying for the attainment of stream winning. So my question is, Ajahn Brahm seems to take the view that in that line, that to get to right view, you're really sort of having to get to stream entering, which means, you know, getting to up to the jhanas. Now, is that generally, I mean, for the vast majority of us, obviously, or for myself anyway, that may not be within this lifetime. So the question
That's
is,
okay.
one still keeps practicing, but ultimately, it could take 100,000 lifetimes.
You know, it's right view isn't an on-off switch. You develop right view slowly, and from the very first day you start to practice, you've got a little bit of right view, and that comes from, you know, getting a bit of confidence. You hear some of the instructions, you try it out, you see for yourself that it works, you get some confidence and faith, and you work a bit more, and that's already the development of right view. And I think it's really interesting how on the Buddhist path, there are such unrealistic expectations somehow. So if we think about musicians or athletes, Okay, if you're to pick up a violin and you want to learn how to play the violin, okay, you never expect that you're going to be a virtuoso in week one, right? You're not going to be playing Paganini, right? You wouldn't even think that. No one would even imagine that. And you know that you have to do the training, you know, you have to go through all of the different levels, and you're also happy and satisfied with your progress. You know, you've picked up the violin, you start, and you can play, you know, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and you're really happy. You're really happy because that's real progress. And we should be like that with the path as well. All of these little bits of progress are things to be joyful about. And they're all leading in the right direction. And forget about the big stuff. You know, that's why I went back to this keep it simple, sweetheart. Because if you keep dividing into going in the right direction, you keep making choices in the right direction, you are conditioning yourself. Like that sutta said, whatever you do more of, you incline towards, that's the way you're conditioning yourself. That's how you're creating the karma for the future. You won't go wrong. So just let go of the big aims and enjoy the path. Enjoy those little wins. Enjoy. Yeah, it's good stuff.
No, I understand, yeah, but I thought the advantage in Buddhism is you don't have to do it in one lifetime. So
No, no, but you never know where you're starting from.
no,
Okay, so
right.
and everyone's starting from a different direction, and that's why we've got the neither superior nor inferior nor the same, because everyone is starting with their own unique conditions. Okay, and everyone's been everywhere, right? So whoever's the virtuoso now used to be a beginner, whether it was in this lifetime or 20,000 lifetimes ago, they've all been through that path. Okay.
Thank you.
I just see there's an anonymous question. How should one accept conditions they don't like the town where one is living in or the society in it? Okay. Well, you know, this is the first noble truth. This isn't a very uplifting ending point for us, but conditions are out of our control, and you do your best. And well, actually, I can give an example for myself. Now, I have some, you know, body problems, and, you know, it can be yucky. And I mean, there's quite a few people who are getting older. You get arthritis, you get all kinds of different things. And I take that as an opportunity to say, hey, this is what it means to have a body. This is what it means to live on this earth, you know. And so that's the one side. Okay, so if you want to actually develop the perceptions of, you know, the three different things, you know, the dukkha, the impermanence, and non-self. But the other thing about it is that you're going to live in the town or in the society or in that body, and you've got no choice. So you may as well not be miserable about it, because if you've got to live there anyway, what's the advantage of being miserable as well? And that's the two arrows. So, you know, the arrow, the physical conditions you can't do much about, but the mental conditions you can do a lot about. And again, you have to be creative in how you reframe it. Because that's the arrow that the Buddha is teaching us to remove, the mental afflictions. It's a big question, and I'm sorry I've just given a little scratch on the surface answer. Oh, good, I'm glad it helped. That's great. Another question. We're running out of time. We've got 1 minute. But this is tips for a layperson to have a regular meditation practice. Find a way to make it enjoyable. Okay, you have to, right? So you have to be creative. Whatever it is, that's what you have to do.